Welcome to Missions Life, where we share resources and encouragement for current missionaries, future missionaries, and those praying for missionaries. Missions can be hard, and we want to help you face the challenges of life, leadership, and ministry. We want your life to bear fruit for the gospel wherever you are. I'm Kyle Ferran, here with my co-host and wife, Heather. Well, hello there. Today on the podcast, we have with us Rob and Sherry Hagerty. Rob and Sherry served as full-time ABW missionaries for nearly 10 years in Santiago, Chile. And during this time, they facilitated the onboarding of many new missionaries. Nearly 5 years ago, they began ministering with ABW headquarters as new missionary coaches, and they continue to serve new missionaries through teaching, coaching, and mentorship, helping to prepare them for their fields of service. And so, Rob and Sherry, it's welcome to the Missions Life podcast. We're looking forward to our conversation today about getting to the mission field. What does it take?
Thank you, Kyle. We are looking forward to it. We're looking for an opportunity just to share what we're passionate about. So thank you for inviting us.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we jump into all of our questions, could you guys share a bit about your journey into missions?
Yeah, that's a rather big story, but we'll try to break it up a little bit. And Sherry and I will probably just be tag teaming this. And so, I was a public educator for a number of years. Sherry taught private education. And we've been married now 36 years. So early on in our marriage, Sherry would say things every now and again like, Rob, I feel that the Lord's calling us into missions in some capacity. And I didn't feel that calling. And by that, she meant missions going foreign field, missions going across the seas. And didn't feel that calling. Teaching public education, I would say things to her like, I feel like I'm on a huge mission field right now in public education. And if the Lord takes me out of there, who's going to fill that void? And are they going to have a positive Christian influence in any capacity? And so with that, she was settled with it and was okay. But from time to time, she would keep asking. And years went on, actually. And at one particular time, I said, Sherry, God is not a God of dissension. He's going to keep us unified. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, for God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. And so I said, if the Lord is calling you, wouldn't you think that he's going to call me at the same time and keep us unified if that's the call? And with that, she's just like, yeah, absolutely. And so when she went,
like a light bulb went off, and I was like, he's absolutely right. So it wasn't right away, but it wasn't that much longer. God just put that to rest in my heart. So yeah, it was neat.
And so with that, she would just keep praying. When God brought that to her attention, she'd pray. And years passed, and really, it was kind of status quo. We were doing the same thing, and we were ministering. But then God saw fit to allow me to have degenerative disc in my lower back. And so not only did I teach elementary education, but I had a construction company that I did in the summer. And with degenerative disc, as you can well imagine, that's very painful. Couldn't bend over to tie my shoes type of painful, taking medication to try to alleviate some of the pain. And so with that, it felt as if God were taking me out of the construction company, and I never had summers free. And so, Sherry, hey, we're going to have some summers free now. Maybe you could call and see what kind of ministries are out there around the globe that we could do. Now, again, this is my plan, our plan, just for the summer. What could we do for the summer? Because that's what's free. And so she made a couple phone calls, and after a couple that didn't work out, she got with Santiago Christian Academy in Santiago, Chile. And they said, yes, we could use you for the summer to administer some tests and to help in various ways. But, what we really need is a teacher for a year. And by the way, we kind of need that in about a 3-month period of time.
I laugh.
So Sherry and I were both, we called it our Sarah moment. It was like 3 months. Okay. So we don't really see that happening.
Yeah, I was naive enough to tell the gentleman, I said, I don't think that's what God's doing.
We have a house. We have a house payment. We have 2 kids, 3rd grade and 5th grade, 2 dogs, 2 cars, the typical American family. And you want us there in three months. We don't even see how that's possible. But we prayed and prayed and prayed about it. In a very short amount of time, God was tugging on our heart to, Joshua 24:15, the latter part of that says, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." We just wanted to do whatever God wanted us to do in his perfect way and his perfect timing. And so we submitted to that and just said, God, we don't know the answers to these things. You do, obviously. If you want us to be there in 3 months, you've got to open every door. And so, very, very shortened version, God did all that. And we were there 3 months later serving.
Wow.
Right. So as we showed up in Chile, Rob taught the 5th and 6th grade class. I taught art, helped some with PE, but mostly at the beginning, it was just acclimating our family, getting used to living in Chile, visiting the churches. And it was a wonderful ministry. We loved doing what we were doing. But even while we were there, this was interesting. Rob got a parasite from eating something and ended up in the hospital for 4 days. During that time in the hospital, the doctor's like, why are you taking this one medication? And he's like, oh, that's for my back. He's like, you can't be taking this. So we set him up with a doctor, and that doctor did a procedure there that at that time they couldn't do here in the States. And it took him to a point where he no longer needed the medication. And to this day, his pain level is like a 2, which
Wow.
before it was a 9. So, or 10 even some days. So God used that as an opportunity to heal him of that. Then they said, why don't you pray about staying for a 2nd year? Well, that was never mentioned to us. That
No,
was
wait, no, wait. This isn't our plan. This isn't our plan.
But we prayed, and we saw God work so clearly when we had to go show up that 1st year, that as we prayed about that 2nd year, God was just silent. We saw no, even though we loved the ministry, we loved the missionaries we were working with, we loved the people, the culture, we saw there was a great need. And really, that was confusing to us. We wondered why God didn't answer that prayer. But with that said, we already had our tickets to return home. So we did. And that very week we returned home, my stepfather fell and broke his hip, which ended up leading to him getting diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Mm.
God allowed us to be home for that process till he was called home to be with the Lord. Then we returned in July. That was right away. Then the following February, my sister's husband ended up having surgery. And during his surgery, he never came off the table. So again, God allowed us to be home to help us through those difficult times with our families. And I thank him for that.
Mm.
But it was at that moment, it's like, oh, okay, God, it's clear now why we weren't left in Chile. But that same time, we continued that whole time praying, God, if you want us to serve overseas, just show us. Just tell us when and where. And it was the following July, and we received a call from Bob Trout, who's still with ABWE. And Bob left a message on our answer machine. We were at church that evening. It was a Wednesday night. And we came home, and Rob's in the study listening, and I'm over in the bedroom, and I can hear the machine. And he came over. He's like, Sherry, I know what they're going to want. And I said, I do too. He's like, they're going to ask us to go back to Chile. And sure enough, they did. And during that time, the preparation again was easy to watch God answer prayer. Now, Bob had said, don't share this request yet because not everything's in place for you to come, but just pray about it. So we told our kids, we said, we think God's calling us back to Chile, but we need to pray. So that was on a Thursday or Friday. That Sunday, we went to church, and our pastor preached on serving God in full-time missions. And we felt like everybody, like, clear out today, guys. This one's for us. So God gave us lots of confirmation again to return. And that was an easy thing. Rob, I'm going to let you share about how God provided for the school, because it was neat how God transformed.
During when we first got there, there were just a lot of struggles, a lot of difficulties, if you will. But again, we saw very clearly how God opened every door, how He met every need, how He supplied every need as far as teachers. There was no other administrators there; it was just myself. So I was the school administrator at this school. When we arrived, there were only about 60 students, or a little bit greater than that. And so, with administration help, coming on with us coming on and with God's hand upon it, the school started to grow. And as it continued to grow, God provided every single need. Every teacher, new administration to come and be an elementary principal, administration to come and be a high school principal, and I could be more just the superintendent, the behind the scenes. And so, with that, the last semester we were there were a lot of issues going on that were big. Satan's not happy when you're doing the Lord's work, and he's a hard hitter. And so, without a doubt, we were sensing that. And as the administrator, there was a lot of waves, and one event after the next, and that takes a toll on somebody that's leading in a ministry like that. And so, the school was better prepared because of what took place, those things that took place, but it took a toll on me. So the administration there, some of the leadership, the field team leadership said, we'd never had a furlough. You want to consider going home on a furlough and just getting a little bit of a respite. And so that's what we ended up doing. So actually, July 2019, the school was in great condition. Everything's in place. We could step out. So from July 2019 till December 2019, the idea was for us to come back to the States, unplug completely, just focus on ourselves and healing a bit, and then we did teacher recruitment every year. January was our recruitment year. So we were going to recruit then in January 2020 and then go back in February. That was our plan. And as we say, throughout this, plans change. Our plans are not always the Lord's plans, and they get changed along the way. And we're okay with that. But 2 days before we were ready to fly back to the States, Sherry has two sisters, and both called her at different times saying, we didn't want to worry you about this, but mom is not able to stay in her house by herself any longer. She's having some various issues. And when just think about that, pray about that. And with that, we decided, well, you know what, we're going to go when we hit the airport in the States, instead of going to Virginia to be with our kids, we're going to hit the States and go to Pennsylvania and be with Sherry's mother and see what that looks like. And so we did that. And in a very short amount of time, it was very clear that this isn't going to change anytime soon. Sherry's mother wasn't going to, quote unquote, get better. She battles with dementia and struggles with that. And actually, I have two parents. One has dementia, one has Alzheimer's as well. So in a short amount of time, God was settling in our heart. You know what? You're probably not going to return back to Santiago, Chile. This chapter, you need to be here for your folks. And so, wow, what in the world does that look like? We're missionaries. Our ministry's in Chile. That, as you can well imagine, that tore our heart out. We can't return to Santiago, Chile, but at the same time, feeling privileged and honored to be able to come alongside our parents. How do we continue to be missionaries? And so we talked with those at ABWE in leadership positions and told them what we were experiencing, and they said, well, submit your skill set to us here and how you think you can minister at headquarters. Well, we know our skill set. We know how God's gifted us in that area.
But
But
how they get into headquarters, we had no idea.
yeah, headquarters is 2 hours, 15 minutes from us. So how can we be in central Pennsylvania with our parents and helping them and ministering at headquarters? No idea whatsoever. But we submitted what we thought was our skill set. And when they received it, they said, well, I think we need to talk. And so we went down and one of the administrators at the time said, you know what? I just finished a job description 2 weeks ago, and we're calling it New Missionary Coaches. And basically what it is, we want to come alongside our new missionaries and help them to get to their fields. We were, ABWE was, a lot of people were coming on as missionaries, and many of them, for whatever reason, would never make it to the fields for various reasons. So we want to surround them as much as we can, helping them, helping to encourage them, and getting them to their fields of service. And so, with a smile on our face, we're thinking this seems like a great fit. And by the way, the administrator said, and you only need to be here during some teaching. When the new folks come for teaching and training, you can be at headquarters. The remainder of the time, you can be at home helping your parents and working out your schedule and doing things remote. And so, what a blessing that was. It only took a short amount of time for us to pray about that and feel that that's what God was leading and how He was leading. And one confirmation, I'll let Sherry share one confirmation, because this is just interesting, again, how God settles your heart even in the midst of the storm sometimes.
Yeah. So even though it was one of those things where I struggled, and I'll talk later about that a little bit, with the change of coming off the field. Like, I love that ministry. I felt like the whole time God handpicked that ministry for us. Now I feel the same thing about this ministry. But at the beginning, I was like, did they really need new missionary coaches? I'm just not sure. I mean, God, are you really wanting us to do this? And my very first, we were still on pre-field. So there was a little period of a transition into the new missionary coach. And during this transition, I get my first phone call from one of the new missionaries on pre-field. And I kid you not, I said, "Hi, how you doing? How can I help?" And she goes, "Well, I'm just calling to find out, when do I quit?" And
wow.
it kind of took me back a step. I'm like, did she really just say that? And we began talking. I said, tell me about your call. What did God do to make you think you're supposed to go to the mission field to begin with? And as she shared, you could just hear God taking that anxious thought she had and just giving her peace. And I told her, I said, if God's closing the door, you're not going to have to call me and ask, when do I quit? I said, you'll know. And I said, let's just keep praying and see what God does. And 4 months later, she called me. She's like, "Hey, I'm heading to the field. Everything's lined up." So God knew I needed that. Maybe she needed it too. But I thank the Lord for that confirmation.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks for sharing that. So as we dive into some of these questions here, for the interview, we're going to use the term pre-field ministry to describe the time of preparation for a missionary goes to their country where they're going to serve. I know some different organizations use different terms, so just I wanted to clarify that term there. But to get us started, could you share some of the key areas that are involved in pre-field ministry, and maybe just a short description about each of those?
Absolutely. And so, what I'm about to share is it's experience from us through ABWE as it relates specifically to pre-field and to missions in general. So knowing that, and different missions agencies may require some different things, but this is ABWE. And so as far as training, all of our pre-field missionaries have a set of IDPs. They're individual development plans. Early on, leadership within ABWE sits down with each missionary and begins to formulate ideas for academics that the new missionary could complete. So the ABWE leadership works closely with the missionaries and their sending churches as they kind of get these ideas finalized, like what do they actually need, depending upon what their background is. What education have they had, or is it secular, is it Christian? What's their experience? All those types of things. And they formulate IDPs, individual plans. Where another big thing that they're considering is where they're going to be serving and in what capacity. Where in the world are they going to serve, and are they going to be a church planner? Are they going to be someone that comes along and helps with maintenance? What's that look like? That helps to better determine the IDPs. And these academics include things such as attending various events and courses, which are being held at headquarters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They also include things such as reading books to learn about their field of service. They may include the missionary leading others, either in a discipleship program or an evangelistic course of some capacity. It normally includes some form of language acquisition and a survey trip. And I think the survey trip is very formative, because what that allows is the missionary who's considering going to a certain place can actually go to that place before committing completely and see if they're a good fit there, if the ministry is there for them, if they're a good fit with the team, that kind of thing. So that's some of the training that they're doing in the beginning stages. And when we talk about training, some of it, again, as I mentioned, is coming to headquarters. And I'll mention some of the things that they do at headquarters through ABWE. One is called New Missionary Orientation. That's the very first course they actually take. And this course is designed for accepted midterm, 1 to 4 years, and long term missionary applicants. So if they're considering going for at least 1 year up to full time, this is their first contact with ABWE as far as a class goes. The orientation helps candidates expand their understanding of ABWE's spirit and ministry philosophy, complete their missionary screening process, and help them confirm God's calling and equip them to begin the pre-filled experience. So that's the first one. Another course they offer at headquarters is called Essential Missions Component. This course equips missionaries for cross-cultural church planning that leads to national or regional church planting movements and international missions movements. So it's helping them kind of gear up and prepare for that. Departure readiness training is another one. This is one that's normally taken shortly before they leave for their field. And the departure readiness is designed for those serving on the field at least 1 year and focuses on helping them to make the transition to working with their mission field, living in another culture, and adapting to their field team. And so that's the idea of some of the things that are there at headquarters. One other is called Good Soil, and they have training which teaches you basically how to disciple and how to reach out to others and to do it in an effective manner. So this seminar equips them for the redemptive story chronologically that lays out the gospel message very clearly. Security training is another one at headquarters. That one is, it's active, it's interactive course. It's designed to equip workers for secure risk and to ensure safety on their mission field. So depending upon where they're going, whether it's an unreached people group or whether it's not, will determine the level of security training that they need. And so some need more than others in that regard. As I said earlier, some of the missionaries come prepared. Maybe they have maybe they have a Bible degree from a university, and they may not need the theological training per se, but others might come from a secular background, and they may need courses as well. And so ABWE offers basic missional theology, so to learn more about theology. They offer methods of Bible study, which provides the missionary with confidence and skills required to understand and to apply any genre of scripture. They offer Old and New Testament. And so again, depending on your background as far as your IDP and your skill set, that determines what you need to take out of those courses. One of the other things I wanted to talk about as far as preparation goes is partnership raising. When you're doing partnership raising, and not all missionaries have that. And I think, Heather, I believe you may end up talking about that a little bit more detail, and we'll talk about that to come. But not all missionaries have to raise their own support, but ABWE does. So what does that look like? Well, we're required to raise monthly support as well as O&P. And let me explain what that basically is. So monthly support is those everyday expenses that you have, whether you're on the field or you're in the States. So what does that look like? How do you pay your rent, your utilities, your food, your gas, that kind of a thing? You need to have monies for that, and folks need to come alongside in partnership with you and help supply that. Many don't realize this. Missionaries also need to raise monthly funds to help pay for their insurance. They have to pay for their retirement. They have to pay for their Social Security, their ministry expenses, their furlough, their travel expenses. These are all things. So ABWE works to get a monthly figure, if you will, that you need to raise before you go to the field so that you can accommodate all that, so you can pay all those things. And then a second thing you need to raise as an ABWE missionary is called O&P, outfit and passage. And these funds are just raised one time, and they allow the missionary to do things such as take their personal items. If they're going to take personal items from their home in the States to their field of service, are they going to transport them How do we get set up for a home? Do we have to, when we're on the field, we have to pay for those things. We need to buy the things to set up our home. Purchase a car. We need to purchase a car when we get there. What's transportation look like? And so you raise those funds in addition to your monthly funds that allow you, when you get to the field, to get set up and be ready to go. So ABWE does a fabulous job with that. They don't allow people to go to the field until those things are in place. So you don't get there and have to scratch your head and think, where is this money coming from? It's in place.
Yeah, it was a key reason we actually went with ABWE was that they set that requirement, and it's a very important one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a lot of moving pieces to pre-field and a lot of kind of hoops maybe jumping through or boxes to check. But there's some people that you see that do it really well. What kind of sets these people apart from others that might struggle through the pre-field process?
I think one of the main things that you see is just a clear call. They're not questioning God. They know already that no matter what trials they come through or what hoops they have to jump through, like honestly, when you look at all this, or even hearing Rob go over all of it, you kind of get a little heavy and think, wow, I thought I just signed up to be a missionary and next week I'm on the field. I was naive enough to think I'd be there in a year, not realizing I had a year of language school. So there's several things that have to happen, but understanding this is where God's called me. So where he's called me, he's going to provide. And you just take those steps going forward. So the ones that understand that clearly, you see them moving along quickly. Also, those willing to take advice or from their pastors or from their church leaders through ABWE, as long as they're willing to take those just inputs to add this to your ministry, you see those people move along quickly too. We like to do a lot of 4x4s with our missionaries that just want some extra accountability. So we'll be like, okay, let's talk about this. This is where our coaching comes in. What's going to happen next? What do you need to do to accomplish this? So once they decide on 4 key areas, we'll either meet with them next week or next month and just see like, okay, how do we do on that? Where are we at? So that helps as well. Super important part of the whole ministry at the whole time you're on the field is building that prayer team. The prayer team is substantial and the connection with your church is substantial. That's another big part. If you have a senior pastor or a missions pastor, somebody in your church, it could even be an individual, but somebody that comes alongside you, helping you to facilitate the prayer team, the different steps that need to take place, contacting other churches, those are very important and helpful in helping the missionary get to the field. And then just putting forth your best effort, knowing that, okay, I need days to rest, but then I need to get back up and keep doing it. Understanding that asking for partnerships is not begging. It's just finding out who God has for your team. I liken it to like Christmas morning. You got all those presents under the tree and you start, especially as a kid, you're running up and you're looking at all the tags, like which ones are mine, which ones are mine. And that's how pre-field is. Not everybody you ask is going to partner with you, but God already knows who that is. So it's exciting.
Oh yeah, thanks for sharing those.
As you mentioned, all the different things that have to get done there to get to the field. Yeah, we've jumped through all those. But what are some of those hurdles? Why some missionaries never really make it to the field? You kind of touched on some of that. I think one of those you mentioned there would just be calling. Not having a clear calling would be one that, little problems become really, really big problems when you don't have really clear calling there. But what are some other ones that people may face there?
Well, I think we touched upon it a little bit earlier where I said Satan is alive and well, and without a doubt, that's the case. And so I think some missionaries maybe go into the process of missions not realizing that it's going to be a hard journey. It's not going to be an easy journey. When you're on the front line, so to speak, of ministry, you're going to take some hits from time to time. First Peter 5:8 says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." Satan has no desire for you to get to the field, especially, let's say you're going to an unreached people group. So, what does that look like? That can affect your family, that can affect your health, that can affect um, just doubts in your mind. There's a lot of ways that can hit, but that's a really big one. That can actually hinder folks from getting to the field, or actually completely cripple them if they're not
Mm,
surrounded by, and I emphasize that word, if they're not surrounded by a team of folks that come alongside and are praying and are helping them through that journey. And so we're only one piece of that. But I think, again, ABWE does a very effective job surrounding their missionaries to help them to push through those times, to get through those walls, to overcome that. And so that's huge, without a doubt. And you can't just downplay the importance of that team. It's not, we're going there as all by ourselves. We're going completely on our own. We're not. We're going as a complete team, and that's the effective way to go. So that's certainly one hurdle, if you will. Another one is just overcommitment. When you come into ABWE and you're there, I mean, many people are coming. Let's just take a husband and wife that have 3 kids, and so they already have jobs, they already have family commitments. Excuse me. Now they're coming to ABWE and they're hearing, oh my goodness, I've got to raise my full support. Oh my goodness, I've got to do academics. Oh my goodness. And so you just start making this list, and it can be very overwhelming very quickly. And you got to be careful with that as far as balance. What does balance look like? Balance has to be there. You dare not try to set your own agenda and push through everything on your own time schedule to get to the field, only to find out you're burnt out, or you've affected your family substantially. They now despise missions. They don't want to even be there because of everything they've been through. So it's a balance. And so finding that balance, taking suggestions from people that have maybe walked that before, that's huge, because burnout is a very real possibility for sure. And not being your own player. Not, what I mean by that is not thinking I'm the sole survivor. I'm the only one that can do this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to serve. It's my own agenda. It's my own efforts. You can't be that. You've got to be a team player. You've got to be in there for the kingdom's sake and not your own sake. And then you've got to be willing to hear advice along the way and understand that my agenda is not necessarily, and my timing is not necessarily the same as God's. And God
mm.
will work in and through you if you allow that. But that can be a huge hurdle for sure.
Absolutely. I love all of those things that you mentioned. I mean, I hope that there's some churches listening to this today, and family members and friends that can hear just how important their encouragement is on the pre-field side. How big of a job the people holding the ropes back home can have, just in trying to launch people off to the field. And then thank you for talking about the burnout on that side. I mean, we
Mm.
can really burn out before we even get there, and I don't think many people talk about that. The pressures, as soon as you kind of sign on the dotted line, everybody starts asking you, when are you going to go? When are you going to go? When you get, like, oh my goodness,
Or we
that's
even heard, "Oh, are you back already?"
oh no.
"You haven't left yet."
Yeah, it starts to get really, you start to feel a lot of pressure to get there quickly and get everything done, or that maybe you're wasting time, or maybe, this isn't what God has for you. That idea of just taking it at God's pace, not our own pace, and not dragging our family along behind us. And by the time we get to the field, they're already checked out. It can have a lot of lasting effects even on the kids, how this process of pre-field goes and how they view getting to the mission field.
I think God teaches us a lot about ourselves and also grows our faith in Him during that time. You think about all the people that God used in throughout history, and so many times he would have them in the wilderness. So there may be some hard times there, but he's developing us. And one of the ones that God really challenged me and grew me a lot in is just resting in his sovereignty. And
Mm.
we had on our fridge Isaiah 46:9-11, and just constantly reminded us, it says, remember the former things of old, for I am God, there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose. Calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my counsel from a far country. I've spoken, I will bring it to pass. I've purposed it, and I will do it. And just that constant reminder that, you know what, in the day, hour, and minute that God wants us to get to the field, we're going to get there.
Absolutely.
And we need to work hard, but we need to trust that he's going to get us there. And that really, our head theology and our heart theology are sometimes very, very different. And God really wants to work that head theology down into our hearts. And pre-field is a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So one of the key parts that we kind of just touched on is raising the financial support necessary to go, finding those people that want to come alongside and partner with you. And there's some mission agencies out there where you don't have to personally raise the support. It's kind of provided through the agency. But then you have agencies like our own, like ABWE, where we're responsible as the missionaries to go out and find those financial partners. That might be seen as a harder route. Why would someone choose this route? What are the benefits of raising financial partners?
Well, as we already mentioned, God already has those partners lined up for us, and that we just get to be a part of finding it out. Philippians 4:17 says, not because I desire a gift, but I desire fruit that may abound to your account. That's an exciting opportunity. You're getting to bring somebody along in the ministry. I just read this the other day. It was just from an article. Actually, it was one that ABWE had put out, but it said a call to serve on the supply line rather than the front line is still a call to the same effort. You know, I think as a missionary, sometimes you think, oh, I gotta get this sponsorship or different people to come along in partnership. But you have to remember that's their call too, to come alongside, and that ministry is their ministry. So it's not just your ministry. You have a team of people coming alongside. So it's finding out who they are and getting that support. You're growing the ministry on the state side. And that's pretty exciting. The missionary also has the opportunity to make some lifelong friends, and that can look really different. Some of those friends, you've had the opportunity to lead them to Christ. Quite exciting that you get to help grow the kingdom. Some of those people will even hear the call to come to ministry through you sharing and through things you've done. I recently had a meeting with one of our short termers, and I found out she went to Lancaster Bible College. I said, oh, we used to recruit there when we were on pre-field or when we were on recruiting time for the schools. And she's like, I thought that was you. I said, what do you mean? She's like, I talked to you. She's like, you were a big reason I went with ABWE. She's like, I always remembered that lady was really friendly. And I thought, wow, I had no idea I had that, prior encounter. But God used missionaries in our lives to help burden the call to missions. So that's just another experience that you get to have being on pre-field. And then a huge part is just your faith growing. How, you talked about it too, but you're seeing God provide. You're understanding it doesn't matter what I do. God's going to be the one that's opening and closing the doors. We just have to be faithful and following. So all those things are a great part in having to raise your own support.
That's really good. And when people think about getting to the field, it's easy to get focused on all the different things we have to do, like partnership development, support raising, training, and et cetera. And it can be really easy to miss those positive benefits. You just mentioned a few of them there. Are any other ones that come to mind as you think about different positive benefits that are easy to miss in and all the different things that are involved in getting to the field?
I think one thing, at least for me, it caused me to obtain a better perspective, if you will, of life and ministry. And by that I mean I'm very goal oriented. I'm very task oriented. I think a lot of North Americans are just that. And we have to understand it's not all about us. It's not all about our plans. It's not all about our timing. It's about God's and his
Hmm.
sovereignty. And so if you're a perfectionist, if you're task oriented, if you're goal oriented, that could be a struggle. And it was for me. At the same time, Isaiah 55, 8 and 9 says this: For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. I love that passage. It's not all about me. It's not all about my agenda. It's not about me at all. It's about God's. And so if you have that perspective going through, God is going to stretch the daylights out of you without a doubt. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. And you're going to come out on the other side better and closer to Christ. And, in the hard times, in the struggles and the challenges, isn't that always the case? And so we've seen that along the way. And then I think also you're talking about impacting the lives of many churches and individuals. You're going into this with an opportunity during pre-field and raising funds and getting out there, meeting so many people, so many churches, and being a huge blessing to them. People and or churches are hurting at times, and you get to come alongside and help in some capacity. We had one young, and Sherry shared this happened in one of our, just give you one illustration. We were doing one of the discipleship programs that we were wanting to do with our sending church. And so all the folks that were there at this discipleship meeting, if you will, we met on a weekly basis, were self-proclaimed believers. They thought they had a relationship with Christ. And we get into the material, and we are only a couple weeks into it. And I have one young man that takes me out to the hall and says, kind of grabs my hand type of thing and says, you know what? Um, I don't think I'm a believer. I mean, this is just making it very clear, what the gospel is all about and what it means to truly give your life, not just possess the head knowledge, but to possess the heart knowledge. And I understand that now. And so he gave his life to Christ. And that was some 15 years ago. And now we're back at that sending church. We attend that sending church now as missionary coaches. And this young man, 15 years his senior, is working and ministering within the church and is growing. It's just great to see that and to be a part of that. And so that's awesome that you get to be a little part of that. One other thing is just remember, we remind our missionaries this all the time. Your ministry does not begin when you get to your field of service. Your ministry is today. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. Bible's very clear with that. But you have today. You have this moment. Make the most of that moment. Love people to death. Love them with all your heart. Build into their lives. Make a difference in their lives today. And so that's a huge positive. And also one of the changes they talk about, changing me drastically. Going to South America was another one of those things that just changed me drastically as far as being a planner and an organizer and being very task oriented. And then you get to an environment like that where it's flipped completely on its head. And so that is huge, because now I'm trying to run things as I would from a North American mind perspective. And it's like, this is not working. Okay, so my guy that was supposed to fix something didn't show up because he wanted to talk to somebody, and he talked to them for 2.5 hours. And so that changes you, that molds you, that shapes you. And so whether it's on pre-field or whether it's on the field, that's something, just be pliable, be willing to change and adapt to how God would see, have fit in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I wasn't ready for on pre-field, was the opportunity to minister to the churches or the families we were staying with. We were on pre-field for 3 years? 3.5 years. So a while. Wow. We right during an economic downturn in America, so it took a little bit longer. But we started noticing, we'd get to one church and a pastor would share some real heartbreak going on, and the opportunity to just be a listening ear and to pray. Or we'd be staying with a family that was really struggling with something, and the opportunity to be there and encourage and pray. And this just kept happening over and over. And we finally kind of looked at each other and was like, wow, this is a whole separate ministry we didn't
Mm.
realize we were going to have the opportunity to have. I'm glad you guys are talking about it, and, maybe warning, but also encouraging, the pre-fielders that you're there not just to share your ministry, but sometimes God wants you to serve a purpose, right? In the conversations you're having in those churches with hurting people that he brings along your path.
Absolutely.
And it was, it was just a small thing, but even just the title, pre-field ministry, was just a continual reminder of this isn't just pre-field; it's pre-field ministry, and just that reminder to keep you focused on the fact that you are there doing ministry right then and there where God has you.
I can tell you, just as a missionary on the field, with overseeing Western Europe, we get to hear all the reports of the pre-fielders all heading to the region. And it keeps us encouraged and the missionaries encouraged when they're hearing stories of pre-fielders enjoying the process, out there championing for the ministries in the field and the things God's doing around the world, when they're leading people to the Lord before they're even getting to the field. I mean, us missionaries, we talk about it and we're cheering them on, but they really encourage our hearts too. And I don't think we say that enough.
The journey doesn't start when you get to the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
It starts when you say yes.
Without a doubt.
You have to keep saying yes, but but it does start there.
Right.
One thing that has been really helpful for us, and we were talking a little bit about the partnership development and just how God has to raise us up. I distinctly remember a real shift in our thinking or our practice as we were talking with individuals. And when we first started off, we were challenged to kind of just not through ABW, but through another organization to do more of a direct ask for people to partner. And honestly, in our area of the country, it did not work well. We weren't around a lot of business people or anything. But what shifted, though, was to do an ask to say, hey, would you be willing to pray about partnering with us either through finances or regular prayer? And then just leaving it with them and say, okay, yeah. And people they would say, hey, we'll pray about that. And then following up with, hey, in a week or two, when can I get back with you to see how the Lord has led you? And that just took all the pressure off of us, and it took it off of them as well, because they were just being led by the Holy Spirit. And that's all we were asking them to be done, to have done. And that really, really helped us to be able to be more free to ask, but also for them to be able to just be led by the God to partner if he led them to do that or not. So that was just a really helpful thing that was in support raising for us to be able to do that more.
Kyle, I would add to that, and I think you're absolutely right, without a doubt, and we share this with folks as well. It's like presenting the gospel to somebody. We don't have to feel that we have to twist their arm to accept Christ. That's not our job. Our job is to share. We want to share the gospel, but it's not our job to lead them to Christ. The Holy Spirit will do a work in and through them and lead them in that aspect. Our hands are off in that way. We've done our job. Now it's up to the Holy Spirit. And so it's the same with partnership raising.
Yeah. And that can just help take some of that fear away for people as they're sharing their ministry like that, to be able to be bold in it, but just leave it in God's hands.
Right. So, absolutely.
One of the common threads of raising support, partnership development, is the ability to be able to connect with people and really communicate well. What could people do to better prepare themselves for that connecting and raising support, partnership development?
Absolutely. I would say this, first and foremost, if you're considering missions in any capacity, be sure you're a member of a good Bible-believing church. Get involved, become a member, begin serving within the church, begin participating in small groups, really build into people's lives right there within your church that, Lord willing, could be your sending church in the future. Theodore Roosevelt, I love this quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You've probably have heard that many, many times. And so begin caring for people, begin building into their lives, and not for an agenda, but just truly care about them, love them with all your heart, build into their lives. And if you end up going into ministry or missions in some capacity, you'll have all those people that are be on your team, whether they're giving financially, whether they're praying, but they'll be there with you through that process. And so I think that's huge. Another aspect is a good book. Betty Barnett has written a book entitled Friend Raising: Building a Missionary Support Team That Lasts. And again, if you think of it in that fashion, that's a great book. We would recommend it for sure. But think of it with not the idea of you going out and forcing people to do something, but just befriending them, getting to know them, building into their lives, and seeing what God does in and through that. That's huge.
Well,
That's
just
good.
as you shared, Heather, you're ministering unto people the whole time that you never even realized you were going to.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. I give a shout out. So if you know, to Kingdom Come Training, and I don't know if many have heard of Kingdom Come Training, but when our missionaries start out the process of coming to ABWE, we always tell them about this. And it's the vision of Kingdom Come Training is this: it's to just help faithful ministry workers throughout the entire world become fully funded and maintain full funding as a way of life. So just a little bit of background behind Kingdom Come Training. It's an online course that lasts 2 hours a day for 10 days. And at the conclusion of your time with them, you have short, distinct stories that you can share with your brothers and sisters in Christ. People love stories. Christ gave stories all the time in the Bible. So people love to hear a good story. And it allows you to take your ministry, or what your ministry will be, develop short stories, convey it in a way that it's well received. So Kingdom Come Training is another great one. There's also a really great short book that we've referred a lot of people to. It's called God and Elephants: A Worshiper's Guide to Raising Support. It's by Heather Ricks, kind of an unusual name as far as the title of the book. But this book shares views, various ways rather, to tell your stories, kind of like Kingdom Come Training, to tell it in short, distinct stories. And it's a very easy read, but it would give you some background for how can I start preparing for this, should the Lord lead in that direction that I need to raise financial partnership.
That's good.
Yeah. Those are some great resources.
We were able to go through the Kingdom Come Training, and it was very helpful just learning how to tell stories. As I was going through it, you'd listen and you'd be able to share, you'd be able to hear other people telling their stories. And I'd hear people like, man, that was a really bad story. That is exactly how I tell stories. So it was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Before Heather asked this next question, a couple of helpful resources that I found that I wished I would have had before going to the field. A couple of books, not Christian books, but just helped me to be able to understand people better and how to connect and how to just relate better. And one of those was old book, but How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. A lot of just really good principles in there of how to interact with people and just put people first, how to love people better. And then a recent one I went through by John Maxwell, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And again, just how do you add value to people and how do you just build into them in a way that really demonstrates value to them and communicate that clearly with them. And so those would just be really, really helpful ones as people are looking to build that partnership development time and clearly communicate what God's called them to be able to do.
So we're going to change directions here at the end and talk about sending churches. Could you guys talk to us a bit about what a sending church is and how they fit into the success of a missionary on pre-field?
The sending church is a beautiful part of missions. It's the body of Christ. The church is the bride of Christ. So as you're sending church, and some churches have never sent missionaries. So we often have churches come on that have never partnered with ABWE or with anybody because it's new to them. So the congregation and the church, that's actually who sends the missionary out. ABWE is an organization that comes along and helps to facilitate and guide, but it's a church that actually sends. So even back when we talk about the IDPs, the pastor and the church leadership helps to develop that and talk about that, what's best. We can recommend, but they can also facilitate in that. So the sending church is the core body behind the missionary. So with that, they're the ones that help formulate the dedicated prayer team. And those people, a lot of the things we speak about are not just pre-filled. They also like pour over into while you're on the field, when you're coming home on furlough. And those are other aspects that you could do a whole podcast just on those segments. But that's all part of pre-fill. So the pastor and leadership, these are the people that will get excited about your ministry, that can help present you to the church. Depending on the size of your church, people might not even know who you are. So it's those people, or the mission team, the mission committee, they'll come alongside. They're the ones that's helping to get the word out. Like, hey, we've got some new missionaries. Let's give them a chance to speak. Let's hear what God's doing in their lives. So that's really important from your sending church. They're also wonderful in helping to strategize. Like, okay, we've got the prayer team. What's the best way we can get your monthly support and your OMP? Should we? I just heard of one church doing a trivia night to help make awareness and to also help open up a platform for the missionary to share their new ministry. So those are great things. An advocate within the church, that might be the pastor, or it might be from the missions committee, or it could be an individual. There's a great article called The Hidden Superstar of Missions. If you're a missionary, I recommend you read it. If you're a pastor, I recommend you read it. Again, The Hidden Superstar of Missions. And it talks about being that advocate for the missionary. So helping to set up luncheons so that they can share the ministry, helping to navigate ways for you to minister within the church. So that's a great way the church can help. The church also can be helpful in startup costs. Again, not every church has the ability to do that, but often prayer cards or magnets, laptops, if they don't have a personal laptop, that can go with them, or maybe theirs is on the brink of just quitting. So those are expenses. And then training expenses. The training that takes place incur costs, just travel, housing, things like that can be an expense. And then another thing is even helping with childcare. So somebody within the church or a team within the church can help so that the parents can present at other churches, or that even studying for their IDPs. It's hard to study for an IDP if you have a newborn that needs fed and a 2-year-old, tugging on your leg all day. So those are huge ways that a church can help. Just also by calling and recommending the missionary, the pastor again can do that with speaking to other pastors and church people within your church. Most of the time, people in your church have come from all over. So where did they come from? What was the church they attended before? Can they speak to that pastor in your behalf? So there's a lot of ways a sending church can come alongside the missionary. And again, that prayer team is going to be just such a key part, because it's nice if you can set up a time before you even leave to meet with one of your pastors monthly, bi-monthly, and just keep that relationship going. A lot of times when a missionary is sent, it's like, okay, they're out in the field, just let us know what you need, or keep us up to date. But it's important for you to stay connected with your sending church, find out what their needs are, find out what's going on back home. And it keeps those relationships going so that you can minister well when you return. I guess that's probably the main part. Understanding that you're a team together with your sending church. You're an
Mm.
extension of the body of Christ, multiplying the church. It's just not in the same city. So you're going across the seas.
Yeah, that's really good. I've even heard about, as you were talking there, I remember hearing of a church that with their pre-field missionaries, they would have someone go from the church to, as they're visiting other churches, just showing their support. And they may have had younger kids at the time helping with them. But it really spoke volumes to the other churches that, hey, their sending church is so behind them. They're even helping them and coming alongside for support. So many different things that churches can do to help missionaries that way. Is there
Absolutely.
anything else you guys would like to encourage people with as we're nearing the end here?
Just missions and ministry are the Lord's work. Keep that in perspective. It's all the Lord leading. We've talked about that time and time again. It's not your agenda; it's His. We're so blessed that God allows us to be His hands and His feet as we share Christ with those around us. Enjoy every stage of the ministry: pre-field, missions abroad, furlough, and build into the lives of those that God has placed before you at the moment. John 15:12 says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." So love those wholeheartedly around you, whether that's pre-field, on the field, furlough, just love them to death. And I'd say if we do that, and we can do that effectively as Christ would do that, wow, what a blessing that would be. So, yeah.
I also want to share ABWE does a 24-hour demo. If you're interested in missions, if you're a sending church or have never been at sending church and just desire to know more about ministry, 24-hour demo is offered through ABWE, and it's done 3 times a year at the headquarters, once in Florida as well. So I encourage you to, Google that, find it, and attend it. It's a great opportunity to find out what God's doing throughout the world in missions. And if God's tugging on your heart to do ministry, this is a great place to start.
That's good. Thanks for sharing those things. At the end of each podcast, we like to just take a couple minutes for some fun questions. What's something you've been reading recently or listened to that you've enjoyed or found helpful?
Good question. I've recently been listening to Focus on the Family podcast entitled Crazy Little Thing Called Marriage by Greg and Erin Smalley. Now, interestingly enough, Sherry and I have been married for 36 years. But, early on, we had a pastor that built into our lives, and he would always say, "Rob, you need to become a Sherryologist," and the study of Sherry. And so at 36 years of marriage, there are still things I'm learning about this lady, without a doubt, and loving every moment of it. So anything I can do like that, to build into our marriage and to learn and to grow, enjoy that immensely. So it's offered once a week. They have this podcast once a week, and it's just fabulous. So I would encourage you with that. And when we came off the field nearly 5 years ago, I talked about the difficult semester, if you will, a lot of waves within the ministry, a lot of difficulties. When we came off, actually, one of the administrators at ABWE had given me a book called Replenish: Leading from a
Good
Healthy
book.
Soul by Lance Witt. It was one of the best books I've ever read, with bar none. When I was on the verge of complete meltdown type of a thing and just really being burnt out, that helped to start slowly just helping me to think through the process of getting into a healthy stage of mind. So I've since read it 3 times. I've actually done a study with another buddy of mine. So I can't recommend that enough. So if you're going through some hardships or some things, man, I can't find balance, I can't find what this looks like, that's a great book in which to help you just kind of think through maybe what that looks like.
Great.
I love to laugh. So I often tease that I want that on my tombstone. So there's a new book I'm going through right now with we work with the college career group at our sending church. And with that, I meet with several girls. And we just started a new series from Bob Goff, Love Does. And the whole preface of the book is just him sharing ways that God works in the lives of people and how he gets to be a part of that. So I've been enjoying that one. I've also done several Kelly Minter studies. I highly recommend that. She had one on Nehemiah, and that one in particular really had a segment that spoke to my heart when I shared about struggling with, leaving one ministry and having to come into another ministry, and even knowing that that's what God was doing. I said, I felt like the grumbling Israelites. God was doing a great thing here. And I was like, oh, but why do I have to leave that other ministry? And God just really used that study to quiet my heart and confirm that his ways are best and what he's doing is for his glory, but for my purpose as well.
Yeah. So, next question. What activity or hobby do you like to do that keeps you energized or you find refreshing?
Good question. I'm very introverted by nature, if you will, and everything we do is working with people, ministering with people. I love it to death. I love.
Woo-hoo! I am not introverted.
Sherry is not that. She's all people oriented. So what that basically means, if you will, people energize her. People wear me down in some capacity. So what I like to do, Sherry and I both work out. We try to work out about 6 times a week if we can. That's just healthy for me. It's like plugging back in, getting energized. I love being in the nature, in the woods. We live in central Pennsylvania, so taking a hike, taking our dog for a walk, doing a picnic with Sherry, that kind of thing. It's just a way to get away a little bit and plug back in, re-energize, and that works for me. That works very well for me.
Yeah, I like to plan the get-togethers, but I'm really careful. I always ask Rob, is this a good time? And so that helps to energize me. We're big game people. We love board games, but honestly, and we we really give this game away a lot. It's called Monopoly Deal. If you've never played it, let me know. I'll send you a copy. But it's a great game because it's just like Monopoly board game, but you can play it with two people in 5 minutes. So it's just a great game for at the airport, or just you got a few minutes. You're like, okay, I got to download. That's a good one. So, and of course, our grandson. That's just energizing. They're actually down in Lynchburg area in Virginia, but just that FaceTime. And then when we do get to be together in person, that takes the cake.
Nice.
Very good. What's a resource, tool, app, life hack that you've found helpful?
Yeah, good question. Last year, I found myself. I mean, when you look at your phone and you see how many hours you've been on it per day, and then you consider, what was I on there for? Was it just things that I was wasting and kind of surfing through, or was it legit things that were really meaningful in some capacity? And I decided I'm going to get rid of a bunch of things on there and really not surf, and I'm not going to do that kind of thing. I'm going to put a Bible app on it, if you will, read through the Bible in a year. And so I did that last year and was real faithful at doing that. This year I started another one. It's a chronological Bible study in a year, and reading through it. And so I'm doing that. So I find that extremely, extremely beneficial. I heard probably about a little over a year, maybe a year and a half ago, year and a couple months ago, about a 5-year journaling log. And I've done journaling throughout my life. But this particular one, it's a pretty hefty book, if you will. And every page has 5 different sections within it that for the first year, you only complete that first section on January 1st. And so it's several lines there. You complete that and you go through the entire year. And then when you start over again, then you can look and see how God has answered prayer through the year prior. And you can do that the more you progress through it. And so just Google it, and 5-year journal, and very, very beneficial to me because it allows me to see how God has actually answered prayer throughout the time. And 2, for me at least, it helps to keep me focused on prayer. I don't know if anyone else ever has this problem, but I do. I start praying and then my mind starts drifting to other things. And so it's just a way that if I'm journaling it and putting it down, I can then focus on it a little bit better. And so that's helped me substantially.
Good.
That's
And
great.
what was the name of that Bible app, the chronological one that you use, in case people wanted to find that?
It's,
You're going to find those on YouVersion Bible.
Okay.
I was going to recommend that as well for an app. That's a great app, and you can just Google in there, there will be a search page to put chronological Bible reading,
Great.
and it'll just pull up. That app also has the ability to do readings, like an accountability reading with other individuals. So you can share plans through that. They have topical studies, or they have like actual book reading. It's a great app. I'd really recommend that. The other one is Right Now Media. That's a great source for Bible studies. It's a good source even if you have children. They'll have little kids videos and things like that. So I pull a lot of material from there when I'm doing the Bible studies with different groups. That's
And just a side note with that one too, just thinking, we were just talking to a set of missionaries just yesterday, and one of the struggles they're doing while they're on the field is not being fed spiritually, because you're in a different language altogether. And so some of the sources we just mentioned, you can still maybe have a family devotion and use some of that material to feed your family and yourselves spiritually as well. And that's super important for sure.
Well, those are all really fun resources and answers. This has been a really fun conversation. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Missions Life podcast.
It has been a blast. Thank you for inviting us, for sure. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been an absolute joy to be with you guys here today. So thanks again, and we pray this will be a blessing to those that listen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Lord bless.
Well, that's all for this show, and we want to thank you again for spending your valuable time with us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider taking just a moment and giving us a great review. Your review will help people find the podcast and allow these resources to encourage more people. If you took something valuable away from this episode, please share it with someone who would enjoy it.
If you'd like to find the show notes, blog posts, and free resources for ministry and leadership, as well as some information on my book, Overflowing, visit kylefarran.com. That's KYLEFARRAN.com. Hope to see you soon on a future podcast.